If you're not living in the present moment, you're not really living. Inspired by Eckhart Tolle. Let me ask you something, and I want you to really think about this. When was the last time you were fully, completely present? Not half scrolling while pretending to listen, not replaying what you should have said, not anxious about what happens next, just here, in this moment, with nothing to prove, nothing to fix, just you and now. For most people, presence isn't peace, it's terrifying. Because when the noise quiets down, we actually have to feel, and that's where we realize something uncomfortable. We're not living our lives. We're thinking about them, judging them, escaping them, waiting for some imaginary future to finally feel okay. But life doesn't happen in the past or the future. It's happening now, right now. And if you're not in it, you're missing it. Every second you spend replaying the past, every second you waste catastrophizing the future, is a second stolen from the only place life ever actually happens. And yeah, I know, that sounds poetic until your boss is breathing down your neck, your inbox is on fire, and your anxiety is sprinting laps in your chest. But what if the way out of all that noise wasn't in doing more, fixing more, chasing more, but in being more present? Welcome to Book Play, where we turn powerful books into powerful life changes. Today's episode is different because we're diving into one of the most spiritually disruptive books ever written, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And we're starting with a man named Andrew who thought he was stuck, but what he really was asleep until he woke up, and nothing about his life was ever the same again. Let's begin. Andrew's life seemed perfectly normal on the surface. He had a good job, a decent apartment, and a circle of friends he'd known for years. But if you were to ask him how he felt, he wouldn't be able to give you a simple answer. Confused, frustrated, lost, maybe all of those things, maybe more. It wasn't that Andrew had any huge problems. His job as a project manager paid the bills, and he wasn't struggling financially. His friends would call him reliable, the guy you could count on to show up when needed, and yet Andrew couldn't shake the feeling that he was stuck. The days all seemed to blend together, each one a repeat of the one before. His life had become a list of things to do, ticking boxes and hitting deadlines. But the living part? That was missing. Andrew's morning started the same way, an alarm blaring at 6:30 a.m., dragging him out of sleep before he was ready. He'd reach for his phone, scroll through his notifications, and then pull himself out of bed. He didn't like that first moment of waking up. It felt like the beginning of a race he was always late to. A quick shower, breakfast, and he was off to work. He didn't have time for anything else. It was all about getting through the day, staying on top of things, and surviving. At work, Andrew felt the pressure. His inbox was always overflowing, and every meeting seemed to pile on more tasks. His colleagues knew him as the guy who could get things done, but what they didn't know was that every task Andrew completed felt like he was just adding another weight to his shoulders. He was constantly thinking about the next project, the next deadline, the next big thing that needed his attention. His mind was never still. It was always running ahead, always moving on to the next thing. And that's when the anxiety would creep in. When he wasn't working, his thoughts shifted to the future. What's next? What am I doing with my life? He wasn't unhappy with his career, but it didn't feel like enough. It didn't feel fulfilling. He didn't know what he wanted, but he knew he wasn't happy in the here and now. That gnawing feeling was always there, the sense that time was slipping through his fingers. The weekends were supposed to be his escape, but they never felt like much of a break. Instead of relaxing or spending time with friends, Andrew would find himself spiraling into his own mind. He'd think about all the things he hadn't accomplished yet, things he thought he should be doing. It was never enough. There was always something to fix, something to improve. He could never just be. His mind wasn't kind to him. It was like a constant loop playing over and over. Did I make the right choice? What's going to happen next? What if I'm not good enough? He often caught himself replaying past conversations, worrying about how others perceived him, whether they were judging him or thought he was lazy or unambitious. And every time he checked social media, it only got worse. He saw other people excelling, living seemingly perfect lives, and he couldn't shake the feeling that he was falling behind. His self-worth had somehow become tied to doing. He felt like he was only valuable when he was constantly achieving something. And yet the more he achieved, the emptier he felt. It all came to a head one particular evening. Andrew had just finished a late work day, and he was sitting at home, scrolling through his phone. His brain felt like it was on autopilot. He didn't even know why he was scrolling. He wasn't really looking for anything. It was just a way to numb the feeling of not being enough. He hated the thought of sitting in silence with his own mind. But then something strange happened. As he mindlessly swiped, he came across a video. The title was simple: "The Power of Now. Are you really living?" For some reason, he clicked on it. It wasn't the usual kind of content he'd watch, but something about it intrigued him. The video featured a calm, soothing voice. The speaker wasn't saying anything revolutionary, but it struck Andrew in a way nothing else had before. The speaker was talking about how we spend our lives stuck in our heads, constantly worrying about the future or regretting the past. He talked about how we're rarely here, in the present. We're always either living in memories or imagining what could happen next. And in doing so, we miss the life that's happening right in front of us. "You're not your thoughts," the speaker said. "You're the awareness behind them." Andrew paused the video. The words hit him harder than anything he'd heard in a long time. The awareness behind them? What did that even mean? But there was something about it that made him stop and reflect. The concept was so foreign to him, but at the same time, it felt true. Could he be more than the endless stream of thoughts running through his mind? Could he actually live in the moment instead of constantly planning, worrying, and replaying? The next day, Andrew went out and bought the book, The Power of Now. He didn't really know what he was expecting. It felt like another self-help book. One of those books that promised change but often left you feeling more overwhelmed. But something about this one felt different. The author, Eckhart Tolle, wasn't offering quick fixes or motivational slogans. He was offering a way to truly experience life, not just exist in it. As he began to read, Andrew found himself questioning everything he'd believed about himself. Was he really stuck in the past? Was he constantly racing toward a future that didn't even exist yet? It was a difficult read at first. The ideas seemed so simple, but they were also deeply challenging. How could Andrew be present when his whole life was built on planning, doing, and achieving? But he kept going. Slowly, the message started to sink in. The book Andrew had picked up was The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. When Eckhart Tolle wrote The Power of Now, he wasn't just writing another self-help book or offering a quick fix to life's struggles. Instead, Tolle was offering something far more profound, a radically different way to approach life. His message is clear: true peace and happiness can only be found when we let go of our attachment to the past and the future, and instead focus on the present moment. At its core, The Power of Now teaches us how to break free from the endless cycle of thoughts that dominate our minds. It explains that we live in a constant state of doing and planning, and rarely take time to experience the moment we're in. This leads to stress, anxiety, and a sense of disconnection from the world around us. We're so caught up in thinking about what's next or ruminating on what's behind us that we forget that life is unfolding right now. Tolle doesn't just present this idea as a theory. He shows readers how to experience this truth for themselves. The key to transformation, he explains, is learning to become the observer of our thoughts rather than the person consumed by them. By practicing mindfulness and being present, we free ourselves from the mental chatter that often keeps us stuck in negative emotions, past regrets, or future worries. What's remarkable about the power of now is how it offers a practical guide for navigating our busy, stressful lives without becoming overwhelmed by them. Tolle's insights are rooted in both ancient spiritual traditions and modern psychological understanding. He talks about how the mind often clings to the ego, this false sense of self that is tied to our identities, possessions, and past experiences. He challenges us to transcend the ego, step out of the cycle of negative thinking, and into a state of awareness. But what makes this book stand out is that Tolle doesn't just describe a way to find peace. He shows you how to experience it. It's not a book filled with complicated theories or long-winded explanations. Instead, it's a practical, transformative journey toward inner peace. Readers often describe the power of now as something that can shift their perception of reality, making them more connected to the world around them and more at peace with themselves. Since its publication, The Power of Now has impacted millions of readers worldwide. It's been translated into dozens of languages, and its teachings have resonated with people from all walks of life, whether they're seeking to overcome mental health struggles, find greater meaning in their lives, or simply find inner peace in a world that often feels chaotic. The book's simple yet profound message is timeless. Peace doesn't come from achieving more. It comes from being present with what is. Takeaway number 1. The present moment is all you have. One of the most profound insights Eckhart Tolle offers in The Power of Now is that the present moment is all we truly have. We often live our lives in a state of distraction, either clinging to the past or anxiously anticipating the future. The past is gone, and the future hasn't arrived yet. Yet we live as if both of them are more important than the moment we are living in right now. By constantly shifting between the past and the future, we fail to realize that the present moment is where life is happening. It's the only moment in which we can act, feel, and experience. Tolle explains that the mind is addicted to time. It thrives on measuring, analyzing, and categorizing, and it uses the past and future to create a sense of identity. When we identify with this constant flow of thoughts, we feel like we are stuck in a never-ending cycle, and we miss the essence of life that exists only in the present. When we let go of the compulsion to fixate on past regrets or future worries, we open ourselves up to experiencing life more fully. By focusing on the present moment, we can unlock a deeper sense of peace. This is because the moment is all that exists. Think about it. Can you experience real anxiety or fear right now? The feelings typically arise from our thoughts about what could happen, not from the current reality. When you are fully engaged in the present, you realize that it's the only space where true life unfolds. Whether you're sitting in a room, walking outside, or having a conversation, the present moment is the only place where you can experience peace, joy, and clarity. Tolle teaches that by shifting your awareness to the present moment, you can stop the cycle of mental suffering and emotional turmoil. It's like a mental reset. Instead of being consumed by the endless stream of thoughts and emotions, you learn to quiet your mind and experience the stillness that resides within. When you experience the present moment fully, it becomes easier to feel content and grounded, regardless of external circumstances. The key takeaway here is that when you stop obsessing over the past or future, you open yourself up to the beauty and peace of the present. The only thing that's real is now. It's time to stop waiting for the perfect moment in the future and start living in the perfect moment right now. Takeaway number 2. You are not your thoughts. One of the most liberating insights in The Power of Now is Tolle's assertion that you are not your thoughts. We've been conditioned to identify ourselves with our thoughts. We believe that our thoughts define who we are, that they determine our worth, our purpose, and our actions. But Tolle argues that this identification with thought is the source of much of our suffering. The mind is like an overactive storyteller, constantly creating narratives about who we are, what we should be doing, and how we should feel. But you are not the story your mind tells. You are the awareness observing that story. When you begin to recognize that you are the observer of your thoughts, you start to disidentify from them. Instead of believing that your thoughts are who you are, you realize that they are simply passing phenomena in your consciousness. This detachment allows you to gain a sense of freedom from the constant mental chatter that often leads to anxiety, depression, and stress. You are no longer bound by the relentless cycle of self-judgment or overthinking. This insight is incredibly empowering because it means that you have the power to choose how you respond to your thoughts. You can observe them without being ruled by them. For example, if you experience anxiety about a presentation or a meeting, you can notice the anxious thoughts without being swept away by them. You can acknowledge them without letting them define your emotional state or actions. You can let the thoughts pass, knowing that you are not the anxiety, but the presence observing it. Tolle encourages you to cultivate awareness of your thoughts by practicing mindfulness. Instead of trying to suppress or judge your thoughts, simply observe them with detachment. By doing so, you break the identification with the mind and open yourself to a greater sense of inner peace and stillness. The more you practice observing your thoughts without attachment, the more you tap into the quiet, expansive space that lies beyond the mind. This insight shifts your entire relationship with yourself and your inner world. When you stop identifying with your thoughts, you liberate yourself from mental suffering and open the door to a more peaceful, centered life. You are not your thoughts. You are the consciousness that is aware of them. Takeaway number 3. The ego is the source of suffering. In The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle identifies the ego as the root cause of much of human suffering. The ego is the part of the mind that clings to an identity based on our personal history, our accomplishments, and our possessions. It is the part of us that feels separate from others and from the world. The ego thrives on comparison, judgment, and fear. It constantly seeks validation and approval from external sources, and when it doesn't get it, we experience suffering. The ego's survival mechanism is tied to time. It is attached to the past, which it uses to define who we think we are, and it is anxious about the future, which it believes holds the keys to our happiness. As long as we are attached to our ego, we will never experience true peace. Tolle teaches that the ego creates a false sense of self that keeps us stuck in patterns of fear, desire, and conflict. The ego constantly compares itself to others, seeking validation, status, and approval, which leads to feelings of inadequacy, envy, and insecurity. Transcending the ego is one of the central themes of The Power of Now. Tolle explains that the only way to free ourselves from the ego's grip is to become aware of it and to observe it without identifying with it. When you observe the ego at work in your thoughts and actions, you realize that it is not who you truly are. You are something deeper, something beyond the ego's constant striving and self-interest. One way to transcend the ego is to practice acceptance of the present moment. The ego resists the present because it can only exist through comparison and judgment. When you accept things as they are, without judgment or resistance, you step outside of the ego and enter a state of peace. You stop identifying with the self that is built on past memories and future projections, and instead you align with your true essence, which is timeless, boundless, and free. By observing the ego and learning to detach from it, you gain access to the peace that lies beyond the mind. You realize that you are not your achievements, your possessions, or your past. You are the awareness in which all of these things arise and pass away. Takeaway number 4. Acceptance of what is. Acceptance is another core concept in the power of now. Tolle teaches that resistance to the present moment is the source of much of our suffering. We resist the reality of our lives because we want things to be different, whether it's wishing for the past to return, longing for the future to unfold in a certain way, or wishing people would behave differently. This resistance to the present moment causes tension, frustration, and anxiety. Tolle argues that the key to freedom is acceptance. By accepting things as they are without judgment or resistance, you release yourself from the grip of mental suffering. Acceptance does not mean resignation or giving up. It means allowing life to unfold as it is, without the need to control or manipulate it. Acceptance is about embracing the moment fully, without labeling it as good or bad. When you practice acceptance, you stop fighting against reality. You let go of the desire for things to be different, and instead, you make peace with what is. This doesn't mean you become passive or complacent. It simply means that you stop resisting the flow of life. When you accept the present moment, you open yourself to new possibilities. You allow yourself to respond to challenges with clarity and equanimity, rather than reacting from a place of frustration or fear. Tolle teaches that acceptance is a powerful tool for finding inner peace. It is a state of being that allows you to transcend the constant mental chatter that keeps you stuck in anxiety and stress. When you accept the moment as it is, you release the need for things to be different and find peace in the present. Takeaway number 5. The power of stillness and inner peace. Stillness is the foundation of peace. In the power of now, Tolle emphasizes the importance of stillness and inner peace. Stillness is not just the absence of noise. It's a deep, inner state of being that transcends the mental noise of the mind. When we are caught up in the mind's chatter, we lose touch with the stillness that is always present beneath the surface of our thoughts. But the moment we stop and become aware of this stillness, we reconnect with the deepest part of ourselves. Tolle teaches that in stillness we find our true essence. Our true nature is not defined by the past or the future. It exists beyond time and space. In the stillness, we are connected to a sense of timelessness and peace that is always available to us. By cultivating moments of stillness throughout the day, whether through meditation, deep breathing, or simply pausing to observe your surroundings, you can reconnect with this inner peace and experience a sense of profound calm. When you tap into stillness, you realize that peace is always accessible, regardless of your external circumstances. It is not dependent on achieving success, accumulating wealth, or gaining recognition. It is a state of being that exists beyond the ego, beyond the mind, and beyond the world's distractions. By practicing stillness, you can experience a deep sense of peace, no matter what is happening around you. This inner peace is a powerful antidote to the stress, anxiety, and restlessness that many people experience. It is available to you at any moment, and it can be your refuge from the storm of life. Let's take a moment to revisit Andrew's story. The man who once felt trapped in an endless loop of stress, fear, and self-doubt is now a different person. It hasn't been a perfect journey. There were days where the noise in his mind would return, and the weight of life's pressures would still try to pull him back into old patterns. But something in him had changed. He didn't wake up one day and suddenly have it all figured out. No, that's not how transformation works. What changed for Andrew was his ability to be present in the moment, to recognize when his mind was spiraling into anxiety or regret, and to gently bring himself back to the now. He understood deep down that he was not his thoughts, not his past mistakes, not his future worries. He was the awareness that could choose to let those thoughts pass by. Over time, Andrew found that the small moments, the ones he used to dismiss or overlook, were where the true magic of life happened. It wasn't about waiting for a big breakthrough or some grand external achievement. It was about waking up to the quiet beauty in each moment. Whether it was sitting in traffic, feeling the warmth of the sun on his skin, or having a simple conversation with a friend, Andrew started to feel a deep sense of peace. He realized that the external circumstances, the things he thought he needed to change or control, were never the root of his suffering. It was his mind's attachment to them that caused the pain. By letting go of the mental noise, he found a calm that was always there, just beneath the surface. This shift, this inner peace, didn't make everything magically perfect. Life still had its challenges, but Andrew was no longer overwhelmed by them. He was no longer at war with himself. He understood that every moment was an opportunity to choose presence over distraction, peace over panic. And with that, his entire experience of life began to change. His relationships improved, his work became more meaningful, and most importantly, he found an inner peace that he didn't even know was possible. So here's the question for you. How much longer are you going to wait to make this shift? How much longer are you going to let fear, regret, and anxiety dictate your life? The truth is, there is no perfect time to change. There is only the now, the present moment. The time is now. It always has been. Embrace the present. Choose peace. Choose stillness. Choose to live fully, right here, right now. And remember, you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness behind them. That is your true power. If you're still here, still listening, maybe that's not an accident. Maybe something in this episode spoke to a part of you that's been quiet for a long time. A part that's tired of running, tired of overthinking, tired of waiting for life to finally start. Here's the truth. It already has. Life is happening now, not tomorrow, not next week, not when things finally calm down. Right now. You don't need to make a dramatic change. You don't need to have it all figured out. Just begin with presence, with awareness, with one breath where you really feel it. At Book Play, we're here to bring you books that don't just sound good, but change something in you. If this one moved you, subscribe or follow and come along for more. We're building a space for growth, clarity, and real-life breakthroughs. Because this journey, it's not about fixing yourself, it's about finding yourself right here in the now. And that's where the real magic begins.